Good evening, everyone. Welcome to The Passing Point here on ESPN Radio Kansas City, as well as RBN, the RacinBoys Broadcasting Network. I'm Scott Traylor in the studio by myself here at RBN, the RacinBoys Broadcasting Network. Kirk Elliott not with us here today. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, for Kirk Elliott, he had a little eye surgery today, and he's got the captain's patch over his eye, so he's chose to take the night off. And I'm not sure, folks, but I think, and I'm not positive, but this could be the first time that Kirk Elliott and I, with me in the studio and him not here, have done the show apart. Now, he's done the show a few times without me, but I have not, I don't recall since I guess it would be 2000, the year 2000, that Kirk Elliott has not been right across me, looking at me, with his beautiful mug. And so we're missing Kirk Elliott here today. We hope you, if you're listening, Kirk, that you feel better and that you are ready to go on Saturday. So we are expecting to get a hold of Lee Spencer here in a little bit. We're going to try to figure out, we're having a little technical issue, so we'll try to get that fixed here in a moment. Until then, you are stuck with me all by my lonesome. Todd Surprise here flipping the cameras for us at RacinBoys HQ, as he does for, well, now the last 6 years. Great show for you today. Again, if Lee Spencer calls in, she's had all kinds of great stories up on our website, exclusively on RacinBoys.com. She's been writing for us here for the last week or so. And also, Brennan Willard is going to join us if we can get a hold of him. Again, if we can get our bugs worked out here from I-44 Speedway. I-44 Speedway down in Lebanon, Missouri, a pavement track, the only pavement track within 3.5 hours of Kansas City that local racing takes place. A little change down there at I-44 this year. They are not going to be running weekly. They're going to be running the first and the third weekend of every month. So basically every other weekend in 2018, not running weekly. They're giving these guys a chance. Listen, folks, pavement racing at the short track level costs a lot of money. Right? It costs you a ton of money to run a weekly car. We know. We used to do it here at Lakeside and I-70 Speedway, both when those tracks were pavement. And the thing is about it is tire bills and the crashes that you have on these fast, high-banked asphalt tracks. Well, there's no such thing as a little wreck. So I think Brennan Willard has made a good choice here, racing every other week. And here's what I'd like to see, folks, if we could see this on the short track level. We've been told now that Bolivar Speedway, we're going to have the owners on Saturday morning, is going to be opening up. They're going to keep it a pavement track. So wouldn't this be a great 1-2 punch? I-44 runs on the first and the third weekend, and those other 2 weekends, Bolivar runs. That gives a guy an option. Those tracks are only about 45 minutes apart from each other. To give a guy a chance to run more than one track, not have to tow too far, and get the taste of doing more than just one track. For me, back in the day when we used to race at Lakeside and I-70 Speedway, a lot of guys just chose to run either or, Lakeside or I-70. The real reason behind that is because Lakeside was such a different racetrack than I-70 was. I-70, big, fast, high bank, 30-degree banking. Well, it's not 30. That's a myth, really, to be honest with you. It's 28-degree banking at I-70 Speedway. And at Lakeside Speedway, it was about a 15, 16-degree banking. So the philosophy on how you drive, how you set up the car was totally different. And a lot of the guys at Lakeside, for a couple reasons, didn't want to run at I-70 Speedway. The first reason was it took a lot of effort. You had to change all your shocks. You had to change your springs. You had to do a lot of different things to your car. You'd run a different stagger, so you'd have to buy different tires. And it was just a big effort to take your car from Lakeside to I-70 Speedway. And so many guys, and let's throw the second one in there. Maybe the biggest reason they didn't want to run out there was because if you went out to I-70 Speedway and you raced each week, well, there was a pretty good chance you were going to crash and you're going to tear up your car. So if you were racing for points, if you were in the top 10 in points at Lakeside Speedway, you didn't want to take that chance of going to I-70 Speedway. All you got to do is go back, look at our YouTube page, A Decade of Carnage, Todd Surprise put together. We had some folks give us some video, and we put it all together. It's a a montage of wrecks from I-70 Speedway, you will see that there was no such thing, again, as we mentioned here in the open of the show, a small wreck. So the guys at Lakeside Speedway, they just said, you know what, I'm not going to tear up my car. I'm running in the points. Back in those days, it was the NASCAR Weekly Racing Series. There was a little money involved, and there was, Ted Carlson at the time had good point money. You could run fifth or sixth in points. Now, this doesn't sound like a lot of money to the people that are not used to racing or doesn't have a clue about, the payout and the structure of racing. But you used to be able to finish seventh or eighth in points at Lakeside and get $800, $900, $1,000, maybe even more than that sometimes. And the winner would get $2,000, $2,500, $3,000. And at one point, those two tracks worked together and had a dual point fund. And when they did that, when they tried to do the dual point fund, well, I'll tell you this, only about 4 or 5 cars would show up from Lakeside Speedway. Not many were willing to take the risk of tearing up the car. So let's step back down to I-44 and Bolivar. Those two tracks are a little more similar than what Lakeside Speedway and I-70 Speedway were. They both got a little bit of banking. I think probably Bolivar maybe a little bit longer straightaway. But I think you could get away with running a happy medium spring and shock and make it work where you don't have to switch everything on your car from week to week. So we'll have to see and talk to Brennan Willard and talk to the owners down at Bolivar and see if that's something that's in the equation because, folks, we need pavement racing here in the Midwest, some short track pavement racing. I love my sprint cars. I love dirt track racing, and that's what I prefer to go watch now. It's so odd that I used to be a pavement racer and run at these racetracks, but now my passion is for sprint car racing. But at the same time, we still need pavement tracks because we've got young guys that are coming up through the micro ranks that are working their way to Lakeside Speedway, I-35 Speedway, Humboldt, CMS, Valley Speedway, sprint car drivers, modified drivers, you name it. We've got young and up-and-coming talent like an Austin ONeill. It's a great example, right? His dad, John ONeill Jr., one of the greatest late-model drivers to ever race at I-70 Speedway. Some would say maybe the second or third greatest to drive out there. There's no question that Larry Phillips is the greatest short track driver to ever race at Lakeside and I-70 Speedway in my eyes, a guy that should be in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that here in the segment number 2. But the thing is that John ONeill has a son now. Austin ONeill's 15 years old. And, yeah, he's got opportunities. He has some sponsors that would take him and go race pavement racing outside of the Kansas City area. But we need some short track racing. If we can get I-70 Speedway open, Bolivar Speedway open, and I-44 Speedway, get those 3 tracks to work together, run the same set of rules, I think there's a good chance that we could see a resurgence of interest in pavement racing. And I did get a little bit of news from Brennan Willard today. I mentioned to him that there's several modifieds here in the Kansas City area. Again, here we're on ESPN Radio, Kansas City. So for the people that are outside of the Kansas City area, that we're kind of getting into a regional local thing right now. But he told me that, I mentioned to him that I know that Shane Roach races. He still has his modified. I know Mike Klim still has his. I think Ron Hartford still has a modified. There's several people that still have modifieds that would love to run down there. And, in fact, they need a few cars down at I-44. They're a little short on the modified count. They're down as low as 9 or 10, upwards somewhere of, 15, 16. But that's not enough. It's not like the glory days of I-70 Speedway when we used to have 25 or 30. In my early days of driving a modified, we'd have 35 modifieds show up out at I-70 Speedway. So today I was talking to Brennan Willard when we were lining up this interview for tonight, which I hope that we can get it in at some point. He told me that they have made a rule change and they are willing to allow the modifieds to race at I-44 with a dry sump tank, and we don't need to get into all the tank. Dry sump is when the tank, it's behind the driver. It holds all the oil that goes to the motor. It's fed to the motor through some lines, and then a pump on the motor pumps it back to the tank. That way you have very little oil in the oil pan, and there's a few reasons for that, but one of the reasons is you keep constant good pressure Another reason is you get less drag on the oil because the crank's not spinning through that oil, and it makes a little bit of horsepower. Maybe not horsepower so much, but it gives you a little bit of a reaction advantage. So anyway, long story short is that if you're a modified driver and you've got a modified from the old days here at I-70 Speedway and you want to run down at I-44 and you haven't taken it down there because they've had this rule where you can't run dry sumps, newsflash, you can now. 25 pounds is all it's going to cost you. So you put on 25 pounds onto your car and you'll be able to get back down to I-44 and race. It's a great venue. I raced down there several times back in the early 90s. It's a beautiful facility. I haven't had a chance to run at Bolivar, but it is a nice facility. I'm hearing that they're going to spend a lot of money on capital improvements on that facility. It's been sitting now, gosh, I'm not for sure how many years it's been, but it's been several years. And from what I've been told by the new owners, that they're going to go in there and they're going to fix that place up and make it right. So I'm excited for the people that enjoy pavement racing. There's quite a bit of a buzz on I-70's Facebook page. Is that right? Do you get that? This is how popular I-70 Speedway was, right? It's still being talked about constantly. You can go on Facebook. You can find where everybody's talking about it. People have the most amount of passion that I've ever seen for any local track around here. None more than I-70 Speedway. It's like the last historic track besides Sedalia that we have in this area. Riverside's gone. Olympic's gone. The original Lakeside Speedway's gone. Shawnee is gone, Topeka Fairgrounds is gone. All these historic tracks that drivers cut their teeth on back in the heyday, all those tracks are gone. So we need to preserve these tracks that we have left, like Sedalia and the historic I-70 Speedway. And good news is that we're hearing that I-70 has been sold. They're going to build a drag strip out there, but they're not sure if they're going to open up the big track. But I think if we put enough pressure on them, and if they got the resources to do it, I think they will. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to try to have a guest on. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pull that off, but we'll try to do it next right here on The Passing Point. Welcome back to The Passing Point here on ESPN Radio Kansas City. I'm Scott Traylor, alone in the McCarthy Auto Group studio. And, folks, I don't know if you know this, but it only takes a matter of seconds for you to get pre-approved at McCarthy Chevrolet in Olathe. Just visit kccars.com. Are you worried about your credit score? Don't be. McCarthy's auto finance experts will make it their goal to give you the best rates. Just visit kccars.com. Even if you've got a loan from your bank, McCarthy still may be able to give you a better deal. Again, find out what's going on about financing at kccars.com. And if you do go out to McCarthy Auto Group, do me a favor, would you? Would you tell them the RacinBoys sent you? It means a lot to us for you to do so. They are such great supporters, and it doesn't matter what we do. They're behind us, and they're behind grassroots racing and national racing because they are the co-presenting sponsor of our broadcast with the Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour. And oh, by the way, have you heard? Have you heard the news? Primetime Live Coast to Coast is going to be starting April 6th and April 7th. What is Primetime Live Coast to Coast, you might ask? Let me tell you what it is. Primetime Coast to Coast is best way I can explain it is, it's a show that is a lot like the NFL Red Zone or Major League Baseball Around the Horn. We're going to be talking to correspondents from all around the country before, during, and after the races. It's going to be a really cool deal, man. We've got people from California, from the Pacific Northwest, all the way down into Florida, into Texas, all over the United States. And all you have to do is go to our Facebook Live page to listen and watch the show. It's going to be free on Facebook. We're going to have it on YouTube TV, as well as our own stream on RacinBoys.com. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Kirk Elliott's going to host the show when I'm out of town with the national tour, and when I'm in town, I will be the host. All right, let's try to see if we can get Lee Spencer on here with us. Lee, are you there? It appears that we've hung up on her accidentally, Todd. So let me give that a whirl here myself real quick, Todd. So anyway, long story short is, here you go, Todd. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it. I was just talking to Scott DeLozio who is the announcer at Paris Speedway. So if you're a big Paris Speedway fan, if you know about Paris, it's one of the historic tracks in this country. Scott DeLozio is going to be checking in with us. We've got USMTS Modifieds we'll be covering. We'll be covering everything from late models, modified, sprint cars, drag racing, NASCAR, you name it. We should have it here on RacinBoys Primetime Live, Coast to Coast. Let's try to get Lee, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, I am sorry that we've had a little issue here, but we've got it fixed now. First of all, let's talk to you. You're going to a Dead concert tonight, right? Grateful Dead.
I am at the Bobby and Phil Duo Tour in Boston, Massachusetts.
How about that? How many Dead concerts have you been to, Lee?
Too many to count.
Now, who's the big?
But I swear I did not, take off and go on a tour and never come back again.
We know some people that have done that, don't we?
You were saying that earlier, and the only tour I go on, and it seems like it never ends, is the NASCAR tour.
Yeah. How about your sister? Who's the bigger deadhead, you or your sister?
Oh, by far my sister. She used to go to the Dead concerts, the New Year's Eve concerts in San Francisco, and I could never get away for those.
Yeah. Well, hey, Lee, I know that you got to get going because the concert's getting ready to get underway. I appreciate you taking the time. First of all, we're waiting to hear word if Kevin Harvick's going to be fined for this back window after dominating the last two races, leading almost 400 laps. Is this back window going to be a big issue to NASCAR, do you think?
My sources are telling me that we could see something from the number 4. My guess is, since we didn't see anything today, it'll likely come tomorrow. Also got a tip that there have been some people that have failed drug tests, so that could also be part of Thursday's penalties.
Oh, wow. How about that? Always hate to hear that. Early in the seasons, typically.
I'm not saying it's on the 4. I'm just saying, garage-wise, I'm hearing something could come out of that.
Right. What about Kevin Harvick? Is this good for NASCAR, what he's doing right now? Or is it like what other people were talking about? I was listening to a lot of satellite radio this week, and a lot of people said, well, if this is Jimmy Johnson, it's bad for the sport. But because it's Kevin Harvick, not so bad. Me, personally, when somebody dominates like this and a manufacturer is so good so early, I don't think it's good for NASCAR. What do you think?
Well, I guess he didn't get the youth movement memo from NASCAR because he's setting that on their ear. Here you have a guy 42 years old and he's getting the job done just like he always has. And so it kind of debunks the push for the youth movement. I'm not saying that they won't show up at some point, but Kevin Harvick has really had the deal covered this year. From being, in Atlanta, listening to the sound of the crowd, I don't think the crowd is too upset about it. He had some of the loudest cheers on Sunday, and I think that that's just a testament to the older fan base connecting with Kevin Harvick. And I think that having a year to get their act together after changing from Chevrolet to Ford, they're finally at a point where they're really dialed in. They know what they're doing with their cars, and they're making the most of it.
Yeah. Do you think now that Junior is gone, do you think that the diehard Earnhardt fans, and I'm talking about Senior, when they went to Junior, now that Junior's gone, do you think some of them have kind of migrated back towards Harvick because he was the guy that replaced Dale Senior?
Maybe a little bit of that. I think that a lot of that fan base stayed with the 88. Some went with Chase, Elliott. They've kind of dispersed. I won't say that group went any one place like they did when Dale Sr. died and pretty much jumped on the 88 bandwagon. I think this is a little bit different deal. You also have a huge following, that are a bunch of supporters that were maybe Richard Petty fans back in the day, and they're excited about Bubba. Mm-hmm. I will say, keep an eye out. NASCAR is making sure that the junior part of the Bubba Wallace Jr. is included in his name, and so I think that that's something else. We're not losing Junior entirely. It's just kind of repackaged under the Bubba moniker.
All right, we're down to a couple minutes here, Lee, but I've got to bring this up. Gosh, I hate to do it, but I have to because it was a story this week. Story come out about Rick Crawford. He's jailed for enticement of a minor, and it just makes me sick to my stomach to hear this.
It's not good. It's I would just call it. It should almost be filed under dumb crook news, because how the fact that he was fishing in that market, number one, and B, that he got busted, and it was clear that it was one of those deals set up like a bowling pin, as they would say in the song Truck. And it was kind of dumb crook news all around, and we could talk an hour on the moral aspects of that, and I think we'll just skip that and say it's going to be a long road ahead for Rick Crawford.
Yeah. Lee, I'm going to let you get to the concert. I appreciate the time. I would love to have you back on Saturday, because there's so many things that I want to talk about. We haven't had a chance to talk to you much this year. If you could, and if you're not too busy, maybe we can visit again on Saturday morning, okay?
Happy to be live from Phoenix.
All right. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it. There you have it, Lee Spencer. RacinBoys' own Lee Spencer. So check out some of the articles that she's put up exclusively on RacinBoys this week, folks. Lee Spencer writing for RacinBoys currently. Hopefully we can keep her around for a little while, but Lee Spencer doing a great job for us here at RacinBoys.com. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We sure appreciate it. And again, we'll be back here Saturday morning's Track Talk on Sports Radio 810 WHB, as well as RBN, the RacinBoys Broadcasting Network. For Todd Surprise, I'm Scott Traylor. For my partner, Kirk Elliott, who will join us again on Saturday, we'll see you then here on RBN, the RacinBoys Broadcasting Network.